Hello, everyone. It's day 50 of the Essential 100, and we are going to be finishing up the Old Testament today in the book of Malachi. And then we are going to be starting next week our next 50 lessons on the life of Christ, the letters of Paul, and ending the last week in the book of Revelation. And so I trust you'll look forward to those 50 passages and the top 50 of the New Testament. Today we're going to be looking in the book of Malachi. And in Malachi, it is a lesson of faithfulness. And the question comes is, how are you doing? It's sort of like a test. Okay, we've gone through 50 passages of the Old Testament. Now we're going to have the midterm. We're going to have the quiz here in the middle of the lessons. So here's the first question. How are you doing in your faithfulness? And specifically the areas that he speaks of. In chapter 1, he speaks of the faithfulness of our worship. And in other words, you can't fool God. Are you faithful to God in your worship during this time when we don't have to be at church? I mean, you're told to stay at home. Are you faithful to God in your worship? Look at verse 10. He reveals to them that they put on this form of religion. They're going through the motions, but they're not true in their hearts. Chapter 2 has to do with faithfulness of relationships. And in other words, you can't defy God and get away with it. God tells us to be faithful to our partners, faithful to our friends. And he even gives the example in verses 14 and 15. He's saying you're not being faithful to your wives. God requires faithfulness in our relationship. God requires faithfulness of a husband and wife. How are you doing in your faithfulness? Chapter 3, he is dealing with the matter of faithfulness of our giving. You know, during this time of isolation, you're figuring, well, I'm not going to church, I don't have to give, but yet you're robbing God. God doesn't say, okay, just because you have to stay at home, you don't have to give. No, we still have what God is blessing us with. In verse 8, he says, will a man rob God? Yet you've robbed me. But ye say, wherein have we robbed thee? In tithes and offerings. Be faithful to God in your giving. Be faithful even during this time of isolation, that we can still give to God's work. And in chapter 4, he is saying you can't escape God, because there's going to be a day that he is going to come and he is going to take us and we are going to stand before him and reward us for our faithfulness. What is it going to be when you meet the Lord Jesus Christ? Will he, as it says in Luke chapter 18, will he find faith in the earth? Will he find you faithful? See, faithfulness is something that the children of Israel, they were lacking in. And you even know that in the 400 years in between the book of Malachi and the book of Matthew, that there was a lot of unfaithfulness going on. But Jesus came to show that God is faithful. God kept his word. God said, I will send a Messiah. He came. God so loved the world. And when Jesus came, he showed and demonstrated God's faithfulness to us. Be faithful to God. Be faithful in your worship. Be faithful in your giving. Be faithful in your relationships. Be faithful in your life. Be faithful to God. Stay in his word. Stay true to him. And let the love of Jesus Christ shine through your life as you remain faithful before others. May God bless you. Have a wonderful day, and we'll see you next week as we study in the New Testament.